Today, I have a very exciting topic near and dear to everybody's heart here. We're going to talk about bone health, calcium supplementation, and some American food culture and history, which is so exciting during this really interesting time in our culture and world. So, Adrienne, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Adrienne
you.
and I met at a conference in Syracuse a couple months ago. You spoke on a panel, and I didn't get a chance to talk to you then, but then we were able to connect thanks to the internet afterwards, and you really graciously were excited to come on. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, Emily. I'm really excited to talk all things calcium, bone health, and answer any questions and learn more about your work.
Yes, thank you. All right, so if you can introduce yourself, the classic three things I ask for every guest: what decade of life you're in, what you do for work, what you do for fun, and also tell us like what area of the world you're joining us from.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the last one first. So I'm joining from
Okay.
Ithaca, New York, so not too far in the Finger Lakes region, which is beautiful right now. What I do for work is I'm the co-founder of Scene Nutrition, a bone health nutrition company in the menopause market. And I'm also a lecturer of food studies in the College of Arts and Sciences at Cornell University. So I have two jobs. Um, what I do for fun is I work a lot. I do really enjoy my work. So that's mainly what I do. I should have a better canned answer to that. I have two little children. I like spending time with them. Between starting a company and a 4 and a 6-year-old, I don't have any hobbies. My hobbies are
Fair.
email.
Yeah.
And I just turned 40. I was born in 1986. So it's hard for me to say that out loud, but I'm also proud of where I am in life. So I should own it, even if it feels new.
Yeah. Hey, you're allowed to take however long you want to process that. These numbers can, really weigh on us. But happy birthday and welcome to your
Thank you.
40s. I'll join you in about 5 years. I'm turning 35 this year, and I'm feeling like it feels like a milestone age for me because I can no longer say I'm in my early 30s.
Yeah, it does. I mean, also, because, yeah, these numbers carry weight because I think you spend your life looking towards them, and then when they arrive, it's like, where am I?
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. Do you my kids are similar age, they're 3 and 6. Do you go to do you hike at the waterfalls? Do you guys like to do that cuz your area of the world is so beautiful?
we go on walks for sure. The waterfall hikes are like a little tricky for little kids.
Yeah.
So we haven't gone to the gorges yet with a
Okay.
4-year-old.
Yeah, the gorges are definitely intense. You'll have to give me any tips you have
Yeah, I think
for the ones in the area that are kid friendly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I really want to go to Watkins Glen, but I think that one is like it doesn't have the full fence like the whole way.
No,
It just has like the handrail. So I don't think we're there yet.
no. At some point, and then the base of Taganik is really nice. You can be
Yeah.
in the base of it and look up at the waterfall, so it's very
Nice.
safe.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, you're busy. You're definitely busy. So, what do you tell us a little bit about what you lecture on at Cornell? And I want to ask a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah, I started at Cornell in 2016, excuse me, 2017, right after I graduated, and with my PhD. And I started as a postdoc, and I taught courses on the history of food and nutrition. So there's a few departments that come at like a more cultural or sociological or historical understanding of food, but
Hmm.
food studies is a distinct field of inquiry, and I'm a food studies scholar. So sometimes people confuse that with food science, which is a completely different beast. And some a field I respect quite a bit, but there's little overlap between food science and
Right.
food studies.
Right.
I'm a cultural historian of nutrition. There are others like me. Sometimes there are military historians that study like um, rationing strategies during wartime. There are historians concerned about famine and malnutrition. I my area of focus is the cultural history of food and nutrition in the United States since like the end of the Civil War.
Wow. That is really cool. What got you interested in that? Was it like did it happen organically as you were doing your higher education?
Yeah, it did. I when I went, I did my undergrad at UC Berkeley, and there's this just powerhouse lecturer, and her name is Kathy Moran. Um, and she taught food studies. And what it did is it opened me up to thinking, like, you don't need to study the high literature. Like, it's not just Shakespeare and Dickens and the important historical events and all the sort of rote learning that you learn in any course of humanistic education, but rather the mundane that can be opened up through analysis and criticism to reveal great cultural, historical meaning. So looking at the format of grocery stores, looking at the layout of suburbia, looking at the lyrics of pop music. Like, that's what American studies does broadly. And then food studies in particular uses our foodways and our actual nutritional patterns as cultural texts to be examined, analyzed, criticized, understood.
This is endlessly fascinating.
Mhm.
Yeah. We could talk about this. This would be so cool. I have to come audit some of your classes or something.
Yeah, so the classes to bring it home, the classes are called like Introduction to Food Studies. I have one on the books called like the History of Fitness Culture. So like
Cool.
looking at early aerobics and the powerlifting, the weightlifting movements in the early 1920s. So this is not a new fad. This has been going on with like Bernard McFadden and the physical culture movement for over 100 years in the United States. Muscle Beach, that kind of understanding of the body beautiful and what that means in terms of how we understand and negotiate cultural standards of beauty. And then also looking at real trends in nutrition, like understanding, for example, how we've been able to fortify foods, what's the public policies that have supported that, how we have created a food system that's pretty robust and we're not at risk for famine or malnutrition in any of the more historical ways. So it's a broad swath. And then we do fun things like the history of restaurants. We look at restaurant menus as cultural texts, music, art, and so on.
So cool. What trends are you tracking like the most right now? Because from my perspective, I feel like our food system is so fraught and so deeply set up for people to be so unhealthy. But from your perspective, like obviously you're so much more zoomed out and you're like, wow, we're not going to die of famine anymore.
Yeah,
So it's like it's so interesting, but like what trends are you tracking things around like the role of ultra processed foods? Like what's kind of on your radar right now?
there's a lot. I mean, of course, I think acknowledging the victories is really important. It's like we have
Yeah.
eliminated a lot of diseases of micronutrient deficiency that kill people, like that have
Yeah.
killed children. Rickets, night blindness, scurvy, and then the list goes on and on and on. Um, it's interesting because the government has subsidized cheap crops, corn,
Mhm.
wheat, soy, and so on, that the cheap calories tend to be the least nutritious. So that's where we get these patterns that are really unique historically and even unique in terms they're not unique, but they're unique to the developed world, where those that are have the fewest resources tend to have the highest BMI. And then you see
Mhm.
that in the United States, and it's
Mhm.
a real negotiation because on the one hand, you want cheap, plentiful calories to be available to everyone, but then on the other hand, it's like, well, you want to have those to be the right kind of calories. So
Yeah.
it's a real negotiation that reckons with what does it mean to be modern, like what does it mean to have a responsible civilization that takes care of everyone, and it brings into question like moral understandings of the role of government. Uh, you
Mhm.
know, you always see this, for example, in the debate on soda taxes or the elimination of sugar sweetened beverages from SNAP benefits. Um, is this the nanny state that's taking a hard hand and telling poor people what's good and what's bad, and who are they to make those decisions? And we're all independent, free thinkers that should be able to make independent decisions for ourselves. That's an argument. The other argument is like, sorry, I'm just getting a spam call. The other argument is, well, we have a robust literature to show that sugar sweetened beverages have absolutely zero nutritional value. Why is the government subsidizing the consumption of sugar sweetened beverages in any way, shape, or form? So it's like a real political philosophy question about
Mhm.
how those calories should be allocated.
Wow. Thank you for bringing the scholarly version of this topic. I mean, yeah, I get really up in arms. Just I treat sick people and help sick people every day that are so
Mm,
sick when they didn't have to be. And I keep coming upon people with these autoimmune conditions. And this is going to be such an interesting time in history to study, even just from like
yeah.
a health perspective. Like we have never, I don't know, like I'm not a historian, but it feels like we've just like never been sicker. Like the quality of life because of health feels, I think the thing that bothers me the most is it feels so unnecessary. We didn't have to
Hmm.
be here.
Yeah.
That's what's bothering me. Like as far as sickness goes, obviously, like people didn't used to have a chance to live past their 40s, right? I get that. And then people were dying of like vitamin C deficiency, but it just feels like in this modern world with all of these resources, why are we so sick?
Hmm.
It's
I
not an
agree with
individual
that.
person's fault,
It doesn't feel necessary. And I think there
right?
was a shift in our political approach to like nutrition policy
Yeah.
that would have been helpful like 60 years ago.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, we kind of lost the point here in a lot of
Hmm.
different ways. Yeah. And of course, like none of those systems exist in a silo. It all interacts with the education system and the healthcare system and all
Hmm.
of that too. But
Yeah.
so cool. Is there anything you wish like if you had to give people one tip to walk away from that is like helpful about American food studies, what would it be? Maybe just celebrating the wins when that's a good one for me because
Yeah.
I'm so downtrodden with how sick people are unnecessarily because of our food. But what do you have anything that's like top of mind that you would like wish more people knew?
I mean, I like your approach, Emily. Like the celebrating the wins, like in the developing world, the number one cause for uh, in many parts of the developing world, not the entire developing world, the number one cause for child mortality is diarrhea. Like,
Wow.
like we don't have to like. Let's be grateful
Yeah,
and let's
yeah,
acknowledge the privilege that we have living in 2026 in the developed world. That like when my child has diarrhea, I'm not worried that I'm going to be burying them in a week. Like
yeah.
that is a real victory, and I think that's also a signal of responsibility. That like we have so many resources available to us, technological resources, economic resources, that we have a responsibility to create efficient systems that we can provide exports across the world, and acknowledge that position of privilege, because I think that also makes it makes us recognize that we are responsible for our own health too.
Mhm.
Like we should be grateful for the privileges we've had and not just point fingers. Like
Yeah,
so that is something I think my students take away from it. And then also recognizing that there's larger systems at place, like you just mentioned. It's the healthcare system, it's the governmental policies for agricultural subsidies,
mhm.
it's SNAP policy, it's institutional food policy, it's land use policy. And that
Yeah,
what Marion Nestle loves to say is like you can vote with your fork, sure, but what you really should do is vote with your vote.
yeah,
So vote with your vote and elect representatives that share your values. Like if you disagree with the government subsidy of corn, because that leads to cheap high fructose corn syrup, which leads to the proliferation of sugar sweetened beverages, like follow that path and then
mhm.
vote with your vote and recognize that your political voice matters far more than any like, diet that you follow as an individual.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And that also I kind of wanted to talk about like under this current system, um, like what can we hold on to for like if someone's looking for hope or like rebellion against this current system? And I think you actually just answered that. Follow the thread, find and
Mm-hmm.
talk to your representatives too. Like your local politicians can make a
Yeah.
big difference, like especially on water systems.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge one that you can have an influence on.
Yeah.
And
And look
land
to
use is
other
a good one.
other countries have had wonderful success in reforming their food and water system. For example, like when Mexico's a real leader in this. When they instituted the tax on sugar sweetened beverages, they also made sure that that coincided with the public infrastructure to support the widespread availability of safe public drinking water.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't have one without the other. And like looking across, especially the sort of the middle income countries that are dealing with what they call the double burden of malnutrition, like Mexico or Indonesia. They're real leaders here because they're dealing with the so-called obesity epidemic
Right.
and undernutrition at the same time. So they've been really innovative in ways that the developed world hasn't. So Mexico, Indonesia have had wonderful policies that have actually been shown to lower diabetes rates in children, largely due to the public infrastructure surrounding safe drinking water and
Mhm.
taxation on sugar sweetened beverages. Chile, too, also did some really interesting advocacy work with packaging restrictions, marketing to children restrictions for junk food.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. This was really grounding, and I think it's so important to be reminded of this from other people's perspectives. So that's exactly why I do this. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. Awesome. So let's talk about bones. So
Yes.
you have this passion in this world, you
Mhm.
have your job at Cornell. How does Scene Nutrition come about?
Yeah, that was a real joy in my life, and I'm really grateful that I'm grateful for a number of reasons, but I'm really grateful that we started this company. I didn't. So Jenny and I, Dr. Jennifer Hahn and I, were friends first. We met at a playground here in Ithaca through our daughters. Actually, at Buttermilk Falls playground,
Oh,
beautiful
lovely.
falls. You can like be on the base. There's a playground. You can see the waterfall.
Amazing.
And we were friends first, but then we quickly recognized that we shared a commitment to bone health. Um, my mom was diagnosed when she was 47, so she actually had an early diagnosis. Um, so for the last 31 years now, she's been fracturing and dealing with calcium and so on. I mean, she's fine, but it's just sort of been a
Yeah.
consistent staccato in my adult life of her breaking bones. Um, and then Jenny, unfortunately, has a rare form of osteoporosis. Osteoporosis largely is diagnosed after menopause, or even after that when DEXA is recommended at age 65. But she was diagnosed with a rare form called pregnancy lactation osteoporosis at 30.
Wow.
Um, so that really shaped her clinical career, her life planning, and so on. Um, and she's a pharmacist. Sorry, that was an important point. So she's a pharmacist, a clinical pharmacist, and I came out with this food studies background. So we were talking one day, and we just recognized that, like, if it wasn't us, we looked around the bone health world, the calcium world, and just saw that it was completely lacking. And we were just sitting there, and we're like, she's a pharmacist, I'm a food studies scholar. Like, we care deeply about bone health. We see a problem. We know how to fix the problem. And it's like, if it's not us, like, who could it be? Like, this is the perfect
Yeah.
team. Like, we
Yeah.
love this. So we started the long process of learning how to build and run a business, which we had no experience with, um, and the technical formulations about how to create a better calcium supplement. My mom was like our first taste tester, and
Yay.
she's been loving her Scene Chews for 3 years now.
Right.
And yeah, here it is. It's the first dietary calcium supplement, although it's a food. It's the first calcium from food, like, ever. So we have a patent on the novel formulation,
That's
and
incredible.
it's all the calcium from milk without having to drink nearly 2 glasses of milk. So it's a little 10-gram chew, and it's shelf stable, and it's like very convenient for our customers. It doesn't cause the GI side effects that the synthetics do. And yeah, so now we're a bone health nutrition company. We have a suite of products in the pipeline. Um, and that's how we started Scene.
Amazing. Amazing. Born from a place of passion, filling something, a need, a gap in care that really, really affects people's quality of
Yeah,
life. How common, and this is probably more of a question for Jenny, but like I'm sure you're very well aware, like how common is the form of osteoporosis that she was diagnosed with?
extremely rare.
Yeah.
Extremely rare. Um, Although probably undiagnosed. There's
I was
only,
gonna say maybe it's
yeah, there's women that we've spoken to. So it's extremely rare. There's only one physician that specializes in it in the United States,
Wow.
but underdiagnosed.
Right.
The common thread is that women will now in their 50s, 60s be getting x-rays and recognize that they had broken like they may have had a vertebral fracture, and then put two and two together, 30 years afterwards, be like, oh wow, when I went to the doctor when I was postpartum and I
Yeah.
said I was in extreme back pain, they told me I had bad posture from nursing. And dismissing women's pain is a common
Yes.
thread in the medical world, and probably more common back in the 70s, 80s, although it may be still as common. So that pain postpartum really cannot be dismissed and deserves further inquiry. But osteoporosis largely is coincident with the onset of menopause, because when you lose the bone protecting effects of estrogen, in the 5 to 7 years after menopause, you can lose like 20% of your bone. So if you look like at a graph of bone density over time, you usually reach peak bone mass around like 28, 30. So in early adult or whatever, in your adulthood. And then it stays stable for both men and women until 50. And then around 51, it drops suddenly for women. And for men, it is just this more slow decline. So that's when that is a really critical period in women's lives, is menopause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What do you, so the research I feel like is starting to evolve with the whole menopause movement around DEXAs. Let's talk about that
Oh,
first.
yeah.
So I have a lot of clients who they want their DEXAs. I want them to get their DEXAs.
Yeah.
I'm very fastidious. We only collect data if we're going to do something about it, but especially my women, even in perimenopause, it's good to get a baseline. We hope it's a baseline. We hope it's all good news, but you always
Yeah.
have that baseline. So, and a lot of them are having success getting insurance coverage. And for those who aren't, at least in my area, I go out of my way to find places who will do this imaging out of pocket and charge, like, I found a place that's like under $200,
Mhm.
and they do the full body composition analysis with the DEXA too. So it's like, it has a full name, but I should have grabbed it. But what do you recommend for if people ask you, and obviously like you're very grounded in like the research, but when do you think women should get their first DEXA scan?
I love this question. I think they should get it as soon as possible. Um,
30 plus?
30 would be great. Well, it depends on whether or not you're pregnant, breastfeeding,
Right.
postpartum, and so on. But let's say you're not, as soon as possible. The period around postpartum and breastfeeding can just kind of sway the results. So you'd rather be in a period where haven't been pregnant, breastfeeding, or postpartum for quite some time,
Yeah.
maybe a year or so. So your skeleton has a time to recover. But so think about how those T scores are calculated. So when you get a T score from your DEXA reading, let's say you're 50, they're calculated against the sort of hypothetical bones of a healthy 30-year-old. So if you have a T score of negative 2.5, that means you're more than 2.5 standard deviations away. But that's like the hypothetical bones of a hypothetical 30-year-old. Like
Hmm.
like the proof is in the pudding. Like you should just be getting your own result, your own sort of like platonic ideal of bone health, and then calculating your own decline according to your own progression. So
Yep.
I think 30 would be great. I think DEXAs are like painless, they're cheap, they're easy. Like, why are we advocating for full lipid panels? And, it's just like, it feels like this abundance when it comes to men health. Like, give me a colonoscopy, give me a prostate screening, give me a lipid panel. Like, why aren't we doing DEXAs for women far earlier than 65 when the average
65 is insane.
it's absurd. It's
Yeah.
criminal. It's like, it feels offensive. Like,
Yes. Yes.
it's like women's health doesn't matter, and women past the service stage especially don't matter past the reproductive year, when the reproductive years end with the onset of menopause. So it's just like you can just feel the sexism like baked into that recommendation. So as soon as possible. I got mine at 38 and it already showed the beginnings of osteopenia. And I'm not surprised. Like my mom was diagnosed at 47.
Hmm. Yeah. And
So
you have two children. Did you
yeah.
carry them yourself? And so you
Yeah, and they
experienced
were
pregnancy
close
yourself?
together. They were a little bit less than 2 years apart, which is
Yeah.
not great for your bones. So,
Okay. What are you
but it's been
doing to protect your bones, after having kids? I breastfed my kids for a really long time, and I did not, I took a standard calcium supplement without K2.
fun. Okay.
But without K2, which we now know.
Yes.
And I also like always have eaten yogurt and cheese and stuff. But I think about it now, like I breastfed my son until he was over 2, and I was already second trimester with my daughter.
Yeah.
So my body did not really get a break for like 5+ years between
Yeah.
pregnancies and breastfeeding. And I look now, this was only, I mean, my youngest is 3.5, right? So this wasn't that long ago. I was already a dietitian. Like, I was by no means specializing in midlife. I kind of just like saw everyone and was, once you're going through it yourself, you do a little bit less for yourself, I think.
Yeah.
And I look back and I really wish I had done more. And I do need to go get my DEXA with the place that does it out of pocket, since insurance is not going to cover it for someone who's in their 30s. And I don't have any reasons for them to. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that. But what should people be doing maybe postpartum to be protecting their bones other than taking a calcium supplement?
Well, immediately post. So the standard recommendation is, of course, exercise. But
Yep.
I mean, immediately
Bone
postpartum,
bearing exercise.
yeah,
Weight
weight bearing
bearing.
exercise. But of course, immediately postpartum, that's not
Of course.
possible or recommended. So, yeah, taking a good calcium supplement, like or eating adequate dietary calcium. So a dietary calcium supplement, which is actually we're the only dietary calcium
Yes.
supplement,
Yep.
or eating adequate dietary calcium, really, really important. I mean, I didn't do this, so it's a little bit hypocritical, but like waiting between, so your skeleton has time to
Yeah.
recover. I also was feeding my first when I was extremely pregnant with my second. So
Yep. Yep.
that was probably not the best. But under normal circumstances, your body does recover. So when you can exercise, start exercising, eating a healthy diet, getting that DEXA earlier, um, ensuring adequate vitamin D is also really important.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. So just do the basics.
yeah, I mean,
Just
it's not.
prioritize the basics. Don't get
Yeah,
distracted by the glitchy things. Not
yeah.
glitchy.
There's a lot of fringe beliefs in bone health, but there's been osteoporosis was really, really well studied for and it has like a robust body of literature that dates back a long time. So when they look at all the lifestyle factors that can influence the development or the progression of osteoporosis, this is a study done by Dr. Connie Weaver and her colleagues. They found that of all the lifestyle factors, and they found that lifestyle factors influence about 20 to 40% of your osteoporosis risk. They graded all the lifestyle factors. So like, did all the bad things you could have done in your life, all the good things you could have done in your life, and only three things got an A grade, which was calcium, protein, given that calcium is adequate, and exercise, and that was it.
hmm hmm
So
to focus on those 3 things, and you're gonna
yeah, I
be
mean
doing what you
that's
can do. Yep.
yeah.
I think move the needle the most.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us more about like developing the formulation. So I know the other thing that I want you to tell us a little bit about
Mhm.
K2 as well. I feel like the
Mhm.
research recently came out. Of course, it's a women's health thing, so it's only just now coming out. But K2 serves as like a carrier to help make sure the calcium goes to our bones and teeth and not get stuck in our arteries, which is calcification, which is atherosclerosis, and then heart disease and all that kind of stuff. So now we understand the role of K2. However, talk to us about, I guess let's start with that. Talk to us about the how we digest calcium and how it goes to our bones, and then the role that K2 plays from your perspective and your deep knowledge.
Yeah, this is a great question. I think when people see calcium, like on the periodic table, it's like, oh, I just need to get the calcium into my bones. And we know that our bones and teeth store 99% of the calcium in our bodies, and it's the most prevalent mineral in the human body. So it's actually 2.6 pounds of calcium stored in our bones and teeth, which is wild. Um, it's not that simple. So there's been excellent bioavailability studies showing that the amount of calcium that you consume and then the amount of calcium that you excrete and where that calcium that you consume lives in the body after you consume it if you don't excrete it. So it's a pretty simple way of measuring where the calcium goes. There's also more sophisticated methods using isotopes that can actually track it, which is really neat and really novel. Um, but calcium acts in a matrix. This is why they call the food matrix effect of calcium-rich foods really beneficial for bone health. So when you take, like, for example, a capsule of calcium carbonate, and calcium carbonate is limestone, and it's used in a lot of industrial applications like drywall and sheetrock. It's just the isolated calcium carbonate, so it's just that calcium. If you take that capsule of calcium carbonate, it has a far lower bioavailability than dietary calcium. So, like, imagine taking 500 milligrams of calcium carbonate in a capsule versus drinking like 1.5 or 1 2/3 glasses of milk. You're going to absorb that calcium better into your bones from the milk. And that's what nutrition scholars call the food matrix effect, especially the dairy matrix effect, which is that it's not just the calcium, but it's the magnesium, the phosphorus, the copper, the zinc, the iron, the protein, and so on that's naturally present in milk that helps that calcium absorb. But taking the capsule of calcium carbonate doesn't have all those cofactors that help with the absorption. And that's actually why, that's the reason why that calcium carbonate causes GI side effects, which I didn't know before starting this. I knew that calcium carbonate can upset your stomach, but I didn't know why. It's because it's just lingering out in your gut and causing upset. It can manifest as like bloating, gas, constipation are the most common. But then there's also been studies showing that some people who take calcium carbonate, even like in smaller doses, like 400, 500 milligrams, can get vomiting serious enough to warrant hospital admission. That's super uncommon. But
Yeah.
the bloating, the gas, the like underlying issues that often get dismissed, that's because of the low bioavailability of calcium carbonate, mainly on calcium citrate to a lesser extent. So that's why we have customers. I remember when we first started, we talked to a customer on the phone, and she was like, she was like, I just thought I was like a gassy person for the last like 20 years.
Oh,
Because it was mild. It's not
yeah.
like, and then she's like, but I started taking your chew, and I switched off of my calcium carbonate, which is the most common one. And I just like wasn't gassy anymore. And I was like, oh, I'm really glad. I'm really glad it's not comfortable. And I'm really glad that it didn't. I'm unhappy it took 20 years to figure this out, but I'm happy that you figured it out now.
Right.
Returning to the role of vitamin K. So vitamin K research is really interesting. We are launching our vitamin K this month in honor of Osteoporosis Awareness and Prevention Month. The reason why we're doing a different product, we have our original calcium chew without K and our calcium chew with K, is that some people who are on certain kinds of blood thinners should not take K.
Yeah.
So that's why and actually quite a few of our customers are on that blood thinner. So there's reasons why you wouldn't want to take K, but the reason for most of us who are not on that medication want to take K is that it helps direct the calcium into your bones. So that's what's really exciting, because that's where you want your calcium to go. So what it does is it activates a specific kind of K. It's called MK7. Activates these two proteins, osteocalcin and what they call GLA. And it helps that calcium bind, like it's a very mechanical part. It helps the calcium bind to the bone matrix and strengthens the bone that way. So the research is pretty promising and it's exciting. Some people are not as enthusiastic about others, and they prefer to just stick to the more traditional calcium vitamin D. And that's fine. We'll always offer that. But for those who are interested in vitamin K, now we're going to include vitamin K from MK7, also a food-based source from fermented chickpeas, which is cool.
Love it.
In our calcium chew. So that's coming out this month, May 2026.
Great. I'm gonna get on the pre-order list.
Oh, great! I'm glad.
Excited.
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz about it. I'm like, oh wow,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So, all right. So if we take a whole food calcium base, I mean, it's got the bioavailability. And I think like the other thing that people get so confused with wellness noise. And like one of the things I say to people is like, think about it this way. People want rules. People, especially like from my perspective, people want to either lose weight, fix their relationship with food, reverse the diseases that they have, put the diseases they have quiet the symptoms, all those things. And they're like, well, is this healthy? Should I get this app to scan all my stuff? And I'm like, actually, I don't want you having an app to scan your stuff because I don't want there to be things to scan. Like, I just want you eating real food. Like, we even evolved with sugar. We evolved with meat. We evolved with dairy eventually. We evolved with eggs. We evolved with plants. We evolved with wheat. Like, we evolved with these things. These are real foods to varying degrees at when they entered, like, depending on where you originated from, like where they entered your ancestors' food system. But like, we evolved with these things and our body knows what to do with them. Like, there's a lot of people are like, why do we drink another species milk? Like, that's a whole different thing. Like, I don't know if usually my clients don't really want to open that can of worms. Like, is that even relevant? Like, sure, we can think about its absurdity, but like, is that even relevant to what you're going to do? But the thing about the dairy products is they come with all of those minerals that help us digest them. So the closer we eat to nature, the better we're going to do. And I talk about bioavailability a lot with people too, like especially with iron, which is a whole other situation, and honestly kind of a crisis in the women's health world right now too. But if you're eating the real food, your body knows what to do with it. I guess it's my very long-winded way of saying that. So is that what role does that play in your commitment to making this like be a real food product? Not only were you the first, but you're clearly very committed to it. And I guess tell me a little bit more about that.
I mean, it's absolutely central to our entire business philosophy.
Yep.
Absolutely central. So if there's not a food source for an ingredient, we're not going to use it. Like, that's full stop, end of sentence, no more discussion. That's it. We are a food first bone health nutrition company. So what that means is that we look at the research. We do our own research too, where we have a clinical trial going on. We look at the robust body of literature that dates back from the 20s, over 100 years, about what nutritional elements are good for bone, and in the origin of those nutritional elements. So, for example, calcium. Sure, you can get plant-based calcium sources. And so for our vegan customers, we'll often recommend, well, we don't have vegan customers, but for our vegan community, we'll recommend chia seeds or basil seeds or mineral water or, X, Y, and Z. But we know from the literature that dairy calcium is best for bone health. Like, there's not much more to discuss. We also know that milk is a great way to get that calcium. Yogurt is too, and so on, but milk is great. So why are we reinventing the wheel? Why do we have the audacity and the arrogance to tinker with it?
Mm-hmm.
What better way to do it than just to take the mineral complex of milk as it is, reformulate it, create it into something shelf stable and delicious and convenient, and that is lactose safe for people who can't digest lactose.
Perfect.
And then it's just a more convenient way of getting the nearly 2 glasses worth of milk calcium.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think that humility is something that serves us well in the food first world. For example, there's also been pretty promising research that prunes are good for bone health, or that
Mm-hmm.
blueberries are good for bone health. And we have the leading researchers in bone health nutrition, like Dr. Connie Weaver, who got her PhD in the 1970s. Like, she's been doing this for her entire career. And
Yeah.
people will ask her, "What about prunes?" Like, this is the obvious question. What is it about prunes? What is it about blueberries? She'll say, "Well, I don't really know. I don't really know. We can speculate, but I don't really know." That's the humility that serves us well when thinking about nutrition. Like, we could isolate out this and tinker that and put this and that and together and create this concoction or this, what they call supplement stew. But
Mm-hmm.
like, what's the point when we know that dairy calcium is good? We know that prunes are good. We know that blueberries are good.
Mm-hmm.
And then also you do the risk reward like ratio. It's like, you know, these generally healthful foods are also good for bone health. Like, great, like enjoy some blueberries.
Right.
Um, like, there's no risk here. But for calcium, like, it's extremely robust body of literature that says that dairy calcium is good. So that's why we created food first bone health nutrition supplement from calcium. From dairy calcium. And that's why we're also a food product. So we're not a
Mm-hmm.
supplement. So we're regulated by FDA as a food. That's why we have nutrition
Yeah.
facts, not
Yeah.
supplement facts, because we're a food. We're just milk and dates and some protein and so on. And I think that's the humility that serves you well when thinking about nutrition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so grounding. You're so right. Yeah. And they are delicious. If I didn't already
Yeah.
say that, when I try them, they are really good. Who is, so this might be obvious, but I want to, make sure that we capture this. Like, who is Scene Nutrition for? it's not, is it just for women? Is it just for menopause? Is it just for postpartum? Like, give us like really, who is this for?
Well, there's two ways to answer that question. It's like, who are our customers?
Yeah.
The people that come to us are nearly all women.
Yeah.
Largely women over 40, women over 50, who've either broken a bone, they've seen that decrease in stature, they've gotten a not so exciting DEXA scan
Yeah.
result, who are reckoning with their bone health now that they're reaching midlife. So that's our core customer base. And the people that really are extremely committed to seeing or are like lifelong customers are the ones who've been taking a calcium supplement for a while. It's like,
Yeah.
that's one good thing about our companies. You don't really need to like you need to educate, but like people who, there's already millions and millions, there's 27 million American women already taking a calcium supplement and they
Yeah.
hate them. So it's like a very easy thing to be like, you hate your giant horse pills? Like, no kidding. Like, they're awful. They're giving you gas. They're hard to choke down. You could literally eat drywall. It's the same thing. Or you could eat a dietary calcium source that doesn't give you the gas, the bloating, and it tastes good. So it's like, it's not, it's not like it's not like a crazy new thing we developed and we have to like really educate about why you should be doing this.
Right.
Like, something you like or something you don't like.
Yep.
No. And we have lots and lots of reasons why we don't like those calcium carbonate pills or the calcium citrate pills, but also you don't really even need to tell them why, because
They
they don't
aren't.
like them.
Yeah.
So that's the core of our customers. However, calcium is really important at every life stage, and it's kind of a pity that it's mainly just women of a certain age that are recognizing how important our bone health is. Because
Mm-hmm.
although it's never too late, it's absolutely never too late to stabilize bone loss or even a small increase. It's really, really important that when you're in late adolescence, especially when you're laying down bone the fastest, that you be consuming adequate calcium. And then they've done these broad population health nutrition studies that the results are unsurprising, that like teenage girls in particular are at the time in their life where they really need a lot of calcium because they're laying down bone,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not consuming nearly enough. It's something like half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that mirrors the decline in fluid milk consumption pretty neatly. The increase in sugar sweetened beverages. And it's a
Yep.
pity because it's hard. Like, once you reach peak bone mass, you'll never, I mean, you can't, that's your peak, right?
Yep.
So it's difficult to improve it after you've started that period of decline. However, a note of optimism.
Yes.
There was I don't want to talk about decline. There was a really robust study done in Australia with thousands of older adults that lived in assisted living. So this was not a general ambulatory population. So take that with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
But the average age of this cohort was 86, and they did a dietary nutrition intervention, with adding in 2 additional servings of dairy. And over the course of 2 years, they found an 11% reduction in the intervention group in hip fracture and
Wow.
a decrease in falls.
Mm-hmm.
The decrease in falls was likely because of the preservation of muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
And as you age, you really, especially in your older years, like in your late 80s, early 90s, you really want to make sure you preserve your muscles in your arms and your legs so you have
Right.
good balance and you don't fall. So it's never too late. At 86, there's a marked improvement through a
Yeah.
dietary intervention.
Amazing. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's definitely something I wanted you to articulate for us. Like, if someone has a bad DEXA and their doctor's like, okay, go take calcium, obviously that's clear cut. That's also a lot of what you already described is your
yeah,
customers, right?
yeah.
So, who else should be taking a calcium supplement? And also, if you have osteopenia, you do have the ability to either stop it in its tracks and never degrade any further, and or build back a little bit of bone, possibly even in your late 80s.
Well, it depends on how long you live. So, like, for
Yeah.
example, I mean, just to be realistic about it. So, like, if I
Yeah.
have beginnings of osteopenia at 38 and I live to I'm 100,
Yeah.
like,
True.
I'll
True.
probably have osteoporosis when I'm 100. Like, but I should
Yes.
you know, that's
It should
just
be nice and
how
slow.
it should be. Nice and slow. Yeah, you can delay it, but if I'm 105 and I have osteoporosis, like I'm sure I have other things,
Yeah, it's probably gonna be at peace with it at that point.
Yeah, at that point, I've done what I could, and I'll be
Yeah,
grateful for the work I did in my 30s and 40s. So it depends on how long you live, and we can't see the future. But
right.
yes, you can delay. There's also pharmaceutical interventions that have been, that are effective. So if you have osteoporosis, you can consult with your doctor about those interventions. Um, Calcium-rich diet, weight-bearing exercise, adequate vitamin D, and
Mhm.
that will either hopefully slow the progression or stall the progression. And then with the pharmaceutical interventions, maybe even a slight increase. But there are a lot of wild claims out there on the internet about like reversing your osteoporosis. And I just want everyone to recognize that there's a few ways that that can be measured that can be make for great marketing claims,
Mhm.
um, that are not actually indicative of your fracture risk, which is what matters.
Mm.
So there are certain supplements that can fool DEXAs into thinking that their bones are denser than they are, but it's not indicative of your fracture risk. So it doesn't. It's just showing that you have denser bones on a DEXA.
Mhm.
So I would never say that like R2 could reverse osteoporosis. That's like wildly misleading.
Okay. Yeah, but it can slow things down. Having adequate calcium can at
Having
least
adequate calcium
help
can,
you
yeah.
with your osteo class as much as possible.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, but I would never make the claim.
of course.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I wish I
Awesome.
did.
I know, and
Yeah.
maybe the evidence will be there someday. You're
Yes,
doing clinical trials and
yes,
always thinking a few steps ahead, so maybe
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
we have from anecdotally, we've heard some like wonderful stories from our customers, but
good.
our customers are also super motivated to do their exercise, eat
Yep.
their protein, and then our adherence rate is great. So the best calcium you take is the calcium you take.
Right.
So our adherence rate is really, really good because people enjoy how they taste. They're convenient. So that is very, very promising.
Great. A question about dairy. Did you grow up having to finish your milk?
Um, I
Like, did
don't
you have
think.
to drink milk with dinner?
No, I don't think so. We did drink quite a bit of milk though. And ironically, my mom loves milk. She's the one with her osteoporosis. But um, yeah, we went through a lot of milk in my
Yeah.
household growing up. I have
Okay.
3 older brothers, so we would get like a solid 3 gallons a week.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah,
yeah, we drank a lot of milk.
I
Did
did
you?
grow up that way. Yeah, the Got Milk campaign got us, right? Like
Yeah.
that was gospel in the 90s. But yeah, I did have to finish my milk every night at dinner.
Good.
But my children have never really had milk. Like I put
Oh,
milk in my coffee, so I always have it. We went through like a cereal kick. I do try to make their like oatmeal and stuff with like organic whole milk, like just to get more stuff into them. But like we've never really been milk drinkers. And so I think that
oh,
speaks a lot to like when I was in those adolescent years, I was drinking at least 8 ounces of milk every day,
that's great.
at least. And I was also eating cheese and yogurt and things like that. And yeah, people don't, I mean, one generation removed, and I don't know really anyone who makes like whose kids drink milk regularly.
I make
Uh,
mine.
Mine oh, that's good, that's good. That was my
And they
question
eat
for
our
you.
too.
So,
Yeah.
what should we oh, good, the kids eat the chews. The real food, right? That was my question too.
Yeah.
Can the kids eat these? Like, can and my husband can eat these, and any
Yeah.
man
Yeah. Yeah.
who is looking to get more calcium. Do you also think that someone who has lactose intolerance and has avoided dairy and not consciously gotten calcium from other sources throughout their years of not eating dairy should maybe consider this as a resource?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we always get that question. We say like
Yeah,
men. We have a line. Men have skeletons too,
right.
and it's true. Yeah. So children, we've. I mean, that's like the obvious target market.
Yeah,
Children in our children's generation are just like not getting enough calcium by
yeah.
any stretch of the imagination. And it's funny that households that tend to avoid dairy for whatever reason also in pursuit of like a healthful real foods diet sometimes avoid fortified foods. So then
Mhm.
you're losing the two major sources of calcium in the American diet,
Yep.
fortified foods and dairy. So actually it's kind of an unintended consequence of a whole foods diet is that
Yeah.
you're losing the calcium that might otherwise come from your, Lucky Charms and so on. Not that I'm advocating for Lucky Charms, but fortified foods is the second most common source of calcium in the American diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, I don't make. My daughters love eating their calcium chew every day.
Yeah.
So we put some peanut butter on top, and yeah, they love it. And I feel good knowing they get their 500 milligrams.
Yeah.
That and like one serving of dairy, like that's enough for the day.
Right.
It's like gives me a real sense of peace. So we get calls from customers be like, "Can I give this to my grandson?"
Yeah.
Um, yes, definitely do. Especially during childhood, early adolescence, late adolescence. Like you're
Yeah.
still laying down bone. So that's really, really an important time. And then men too. Men get osteoporosis. It just tends to happen a little bit later in life.
Right.
But when a man, like in his late 80s, early 90s, breaks a hip, like I mean, breaking a hip is not.
I know.
I don't wish that upon anyone. So whatever you can do now to prevent that is extremely important.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So really, it's for anyone who wants to get more calcium in their diet.
Yeah, and the majority of Americans are deficient.
Right.
So average American consumes about 800 milligrams of calcium a day, and that includes fortified foods. So if you're avoiding like junk food, you're likely avoiding not getting those fortified foods. So then you're probably at like half what you need to.
Mm-hmm.
So for
Yeah.
women our age, we need about 1,000 milligrams a day.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So for someone who, like, let's put a bow on the
Yeah.
vitamin K calcium interaction too. So for someone like me, I don't have any contraindications for anything. Should I take the one with K2 just to make, or the K to make sure that I am getting the best transport possible? Or do you think it doesn't really matter as much because the bioavailability is so high from the food that it would go to my bones anyway?
That's a good question. It's For me, I would recommend the K for everyone unless you're on
Hmm.
that particular blood thinner.
Yep.
Um, we know the bioavailability would be better anyway, but it's like, why not do everything we can to make this as good
Yeah.
as we can? So
Yeah.
for me, I would say take the K. We know that most Americans are also deficient in K, and K is also just a generally healthy nutrient as well. So you might
Great.
as well. So I would recommend it. I'm going to switch as
Great.
soon as we have our results back. We're gonna get everything launched and ready and all of our paperwork in order.
Amazing.
It's an exciting moment to be in because developing a new product takes a long time. Like this has been in the
Yeah.
pipeline for over a year. Like all the
Wow.
FDA regulations, all the paperwork, all the testing. So everything in order. So it's all in order.
Amazing.
And I'm going to switch as soon as we have our first production run.
Amazing. Are you gonna have a party to celebrate another successful product?
Yes. Now that you mention it.
You should. You work
We
so
should.
hard and your team, I'm sure everyone works so
Yeah.
hard, like, celebrate these wins. You're changing. I mean, I'm not sure how many customers you have, but, like, you're changing lives and, like, I have a big belief in my practice, like, every person's life we impact has a significant ripple effect. So,
Yeah.
I can only see so many clients a day, a week, a year, whatever, but every one person I see affects at least 10, 15, and then that affects, like, we're changing like generational health here, and
Yeah.
your company is changing how families are going to thrive, and I think you should be so proud of that.
Well, thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
That's really nice of you to say. I mean,
It's
we're doing our
huge.
best, and we are serving quite a few women, and we take our responsibility extremely seriously.
Yeah.
So we're being really thorough and conscientious and fastidious, which is not traits that I think a lot of companies in our space share. So I'm happy to be. Uh, I'm happy that we started this, and we're improving people's lives and their
Yeah.
health.
It's a gift to us all, really.
So
And acting in this integrity way, like, is gonna call other companies. Hopefully, you're gonna pull other people with you by leading by example and set a standard. And we can only hope. And we can vote with our fork and with our
yes,
wallets and patronize the companies that are doing thorough testing and really, like, crossing their T's and dotting their I's and creating transparency and yeah,
yeah, and
all the
being
things.
considerate in their claims and not over promising miracle cures, I think, is an important point.
Well, and taking the time to explain nuance, right?
Yeah.
Not just a quick marketing hit. Like, your
Yes.
customers are intelligent people who care about their bodies and wanna take care of their life and their health.
Yeah.
Like, they want to be treated with respect, and you meet them there. So it's amazing.
Well,
Okay,
thank you.
amazing. Well, I want
Wonderful
to ask
question.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I want to ask you my closing question, and then I
Okay.
want you to share any information on where people can get in touch with you if they'd like, and how they can purchase and learn more about Scene. So my closing question for
Okay.
everyone is, what do you want to be doing when you're 80 years old?
I want to be Oh, you mean my health or in the business? Okay,
Take
anything.
it however you want to take it.
Okay. Well, I want to be active. I want to be walking, getting up out of chairs by myself. I want to be traveling. I want to be driving. I want to have all the independence that I see my mom and dad enjoy. Um, and so I'm preparing for that future now. Just turned,
Yes.
I'm halfway there, but like, yes, I'm preparing for that future now. I want to leave, like, when I'm 80, I want to look around me and be like, wow, like, that was the scholarship fund that I started, or like,
Oh,
that was the nursery school that I supported, and look how, like, I want to see that growth, the positive changes that I've made, like, actually come to fruition. So looking at the institutions that have supported me, and like thinking about how I can, leave a positive change, and then also hoping that, like, the problems that I've uncovered from starting this business, it's like, I hope, we have better policy regulating dietary supplements. Like, if that would totally be a passion project of
yes.
mine
Yeah.
in my later years. Recognizing that efficacy, safety, reliability, stability, like, all need to be tested, and that supplements are so poorly regulated. So there's
Yeah.
political causes that I have a lot of passion for. There's, like, institutions I want to support, education I want to support, and then also selfishly, like, I just want to be able to get up out of a chair by myself and get on an airplane and, like, pick up my grandchildren when I'm 80.
Yeah, I love it. And I hope that we get to follow along and see all these amazing things that you've done. This is really such a gift, and really I can't state it enough. Like, people like you and your business partner and your team are really like such a bright spot in the healthcare world and in women's health. And so thank you. I so appreciate it. So where can everybody find you? Where can everybody learn more about Scene? How can we get on the mailing list? I can link whatever you'd like me to
Yeah,
link
please do.
in the show notes. How can we get on the mailing list for when your new product is out?
Yes. So online, Jenny and I are the Calcium Queens. So it's very easy to remember, the Calcium Queens, on Instagram, Facebook, and so on. We're called Scene Nutrition, because we recognize that everyone in all of our stages of lives, women should be seen. So that's the meaning behind the name. So Scene Nutrition. So it's scenenutrition.com. We host, like, educational events. We go to events like the event that I met you at.
Yep.
Happy to chat. We have a phone number listed on our website too. We actually answer the phone.
It sounds like it's you guys that answer it
Well, yes. So we take turns.
sometimes.
So we have
Wow.
an assistant that does it on, like, 3 days a week,
Wow.
and then Jenny and I do one day, because talking to our customers is really, really important.
Yes. Amazing. I love that.
We do get a lot of calls, so just one day a
Yes.
week. Um, and yeah, so Calcium Queens, www.cnutrition. We have a newsletter. And then you can only buy from our website right now. And then if you're local, we're also at a few local pharmacies and grocery stores.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, Adrienne, thank you so much. And if you think of
Yeah.
anything else, I'll put it in the show notes.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. This has been a really meaningful conversation. And thank you for the work that you're doing and advocating for women's health and healthy nutrition, and overall better diet is absolutely a voice that we need in this space.
Yes, thank you. It's really like I can't imagine doing anything else, and I'm sure you feel the same way. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've got a lot of great people around us doing wonderful things. So it's
Yeah.
good to bring the voices together. I know my audience will really appreciate this. I know I have several women who are like, I need a new calcium. I'm gonna wait till this interview and find out if it's the right one for me. So really
Yeah.
excited. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been a
All right.
really great way to start my day.
I'm so glad. Keep in touch, Adrienne. Thank you. And everyone, the replay will be out soon, and you can find all the information in the show notes. So thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take
Bye.
care.